I still remember the exact moment I realized we weren't alone in that abandoned hospital. The flashlight in my hand flickered, once, twice, and then plunged us into complete darkness. That's when I heard it, the breathing that wasn't ours, coming from somewhere down the hallway.
Guys, did you hear that?
I didn't hear anything. Your mind's playing tricks on you.
But it wasn't my mind. I knew what I heard. We were 4 college students looking for a thrill in Burnton's infamous psychiatric hospital, closed down in the ADS after rumors of patient mistreatment became too loud to ignore. The locals avoided talking about it. Now I understand why.
The batteries are dead. I told you we should have brought spares.
I have some in my bag, just give me a second.
As she fumbled through her backpack, I felt something brush against my arm. It was cold, like someone had just walked out of a freezer and decided to touch me.
Something just touched me.
Stop it. You're freaking me out.
Probably just a draft. This place is falling apart.
The flashlight came back on, illuminating our faces in that sickly yellow glow. 4 friends who had known each other since freshman year, now huddled together in a corridor that smelled of mold and something else. Something chemical and wrong.
There, better now?
Let's just take some pictures and get out of here. This place gives me the creeps.
We moved deeper into the hospital, our footsteps echoing on the cracked linoleum floor. Graffiti covered the walls, some of it typical teenage stuff, but other markings looked older, stranger. Symbols I didn't recognize.
Check this out. Patient records.
He was holding up a water-damaged folder he'd found in an overturned filing cabinet. Pages spilled out, covered in handwritten notes.
Put that back. We shouldn't be touching anything.
Let me see that.
I took the folder from him and flipped through the pages. Most of it was mundane, medication dosages, therapy notes. But one page caught my eye. A patient named, only as Subject 11, with a treatment plan that mentioned something called the Burnton Protocol.
Have you guys ever heard of the Burnton Protocol?
No, what is it?
I don't know. It's mentioned here, but there's no explanation.
As I said those words, the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. The flashlight flickered again, and this time, when it came back on, I swear the shadows in the corner of the room had moved closer.
Let's check out the treatment rooms. That's where all the interesting stuff will be.
I don't think we should split up.
Who said anything about splitting up? We're all going.
We found the treatment wing at the end of a long corridor. The doors here were heavier with small reinforced windows. Most were locked, but one stood slightly ajar. Room 11?
Coincidence?
Hey, let's not find out. Let's try another room.
Don't be such a baby. It's just a number.
He pushed the door open wider, and we followed him in. The room was sparse. A metal bed frame bolted to the floor, a sink in the corner, and strange markings etched into the walls. They looked like the same symbols we'd seen in the hallway.
What are those marks?
Probably made by patients.
But they didn't look random or desperate. They looked deliberate, like a language. As I moved closer to examine them, the flashlight caught something on the ceiling. More symbols, arranged in a perfect circle.
Guys, look up.
As they all tilted their heads back, I heard a soft click from the doorway. We all turned at once.
Did that door just move?
It's just settling. Old buildings do that.
But I knew better. I walked to the door and pushed. It didn't budge.
It's locked.
That's impossible. There's no lock on this side.
Well, it's not opening.
We all took turns trying to force it open, but it was like pushing against solid concrete. That's when the whispering started. So faint at first that I thought it was the wind finding its way through cracks in the walls.
Do you hear that?
Hear what?
Voices, like someone's whispering.
The whispers grew louder, more distinct, though I still couldn't make out any words. They seemed to be coming from inside the walls themselves.
It's just the pipes or something. This place is ancient.
Pipes don't sound like voices.
The temperature continued to drop until I could see our breath fogging in front of our faces. The flashlight began to dim again, but this time it wasn't dying. Something was draining it, feeding off its energy.
We need to get out of here, now.
I slammed my shoulder against the door repeatedly, ignoring the pain. The others joined in, pounding and kicking, but it was useless. The whispering grew louder, and now I could make out words. Or rather, a single phrase repeated over and over.
The Burnton Protocol. That's what they're saying.
This isn't funny anymore. If this is some kind of prank,
It's not us. Why would we do this?
The flashlight went out completely, plunging us into darkness so absolute it felt solid. I could feel it pressing against my skin, filling my lungs with each panicked breath.
My phone. I can use the light on my phone.
The small blue glow of her phone screen provided minimal light, but it was enough to see that the symbols on the walls had changed. They were moving, rearranging themselves like living things.
What's happening to the walls?
Before anyone could answer, her phone died too. In the new darkness, I felt something brush past me. Not a draft this time, but something solid. Something that breathed.
Something touched me.
everyone grab hands so we don't lose each other.
We formed a circle, backs to each other, facing outward into the darkness. The whispering had stopped, replaced by a heavy silence that pressed against my eardrums.
I think there's someone else in here with us.
She was right. In the corner of the room, I could make out a shape, darker than the darkness around it. It was roughly human-sized, but wrong somehow, too tall, too thin, with limbs that seemed to bend at impossible angles.
Don't move, nobody move.
The shape didn't approach, but I could feel it watching us, studying us. The air grew colder still, and a smell filled the room. Antiseptic, mixed with something rotten.
We need light. Does anyone have anything?
I have a lighter in my pocket.
She fumbled for it, and a small flame illuminated our terrified faces. In its glow, I could see that the walls were now completely covered in those strange symbols, and they were moving, flowing like liquid.
The ceiling.
We looked up to see that the circular arrangement of symbols had expanded, now covering the entire ceiling, and in the center a dark stain was spreading, dripping down toward us.
Don't let it touch you.
We pressed ourselves against the walls, but they felt soft now, yielding like flesh. The dripping substance from the ceiling pooled on the floor, black and viscous.
The lighter's getting hot.
The flame grew larger, brighter, until it illuminated the entire room. That's when we saw them. Figures standing in each corner. They wore what looked like old medical uniforms, but their faces were wrong, featureless, except for wide, grinning mouths.
What are they?
The figures didn't move, but the whispering returned, louder now, coming from their mouths, though their lips didn't move.
They're saying our names. How do they know our names?
She was right. mixed in with the Burnton protocol. I could hear my name being whispered over and over. Not my nickname that my friends used, but my full name that almost no one knew.
Don't listen to them. Cover your ears.
But it was too late. The whispering had gotten inside my head, and I could feel something changing, like fingers rearranging my thoughts. Memories I didn't recognize began flooding my mind. Being strapped to a bed, needles, pain, and those symbols carved into my skin.
The lighter.
It slipped from her fingers as she clutched her head in pain. The flame went out and we were in darkness again. But now I could see without light, see the true nature of the room, of the hospital, of what had happened here.
I remember now. I was a patient here.
No, that's impossible. This place closed before we were born.
Not me, not us, but them. The ones before.
He was right. Somehow I understood. We weren't just visitors, we were vessels. The hospital had been waiting for us, calling to us, needing us to complete what had been started decades ago.
The Burnton protocol. It wasn't a treatment, it was a ritual.
The black substance from the ceiling had formed a perfect circle around us. The figures in the corners moved for the first time, taking a synchronized step toward us.
What do they want?
They want to finish it, they need bodies.
As I said this, I felt something cold slide into my mind, taking control. My body straightened against my will, my arms extending outward. The others were doing the same, puppets on invisible strings.
I can't move. I can't control my body.
We were arranged in a circle now, facing outward, our backs to each other. The figures approached, one for each of us. Mine wore a doctor's coat, stained with old blood. As it reached for me, I could see through its hand, transparent but becoming more solid with each passing second.
They're trying to come back. They're using us to come back.
I fought against the force controlling me, but it was like being trapped in concrete. The figure placed its hands on either side of my head, and I felt a cold so intense, it burned. Memories that weren't mine flooded my consciousness. Experiments, patients screaming. The symbols used to open something that should have remained closed.
Fight it. We have to fight it.
Her voice sounded distant, underwater. The figure before me was becoming more solid as I felt myself becoming less so. Like it was draining my substance, replacing it with its own.
The symbols, they're the key. We have to break the pattern.
With every ounce of will I had left, I forced my hand to move, just enough to smudge the black substance on the floor, breaking the circle. The effect was immediate. A howling filled the room, not heard with ears, but felt in the marrow of my bones.
It's working. Keep fighting.
The figures began to flicker like bad television reception, their forms becoming unstable. The one attached to me dug its fingers deeper into my skull, desperate to complete the transfer.
The door's opening.
A crack of light appeared around the edges of the door. The symbols on the walls began to fade, the black substance evaporating.
Run. As soon as you can move, run.
The pressure in my head reached an unbearable peak, and then suddenly released. I collapsed to the floor, my body my own again. The door swung open, revealing the dark corridor beyond.
Get up. We have to go now.
We stumbled out of the room, supporting each other as we ran through the corridors that now seemed to shift and change around us. The exit, which had been easy to find on our way in, eluded us now.
It's like the building is changing.
There, I see light.
A faint glow appeared ahead, moonlight streaming through broken windows. We ran toward it, the whispers chasing us, growing fainter with each step.
Don't look back. Whatever you do, don't look back.
We burst through the front doors and into the cool night air. The hospital loomed behind us, windows dark except for room 11, which glowed with an unnatural light.
My car. Get to my car.
We piled in and she fumbled with the keys, the engine finally roaring to life. As we sped away, I finally looked back. In the rearview mirror, I could see figures standing in the doorway of the hospital. 4 figures, watching us leave.
They look like us.
He was right. They were our shadows, our echoes, wearing our faces, but not quite right. The eyes too dark, the smiles too wide.
What was that place? What happened to us?
The Burnton protocol. They were trying to come back to use us to return to the physical world.
We stopped them, right? We got away.
I wanted to believe that, but as we drove through the night, I noticed something on my arm. A small mark in the shape of one of those symbols, like a brand on my skin. And in the mirror, just for a moment, my reflection smiled at me when I wasn't smiling.
I don't think we stopped anything. I think we just brought it out with us.
That was 3 weeks ago. The mark on my arm has grown, spreading like roots under my skin. The others have them too, in different places. We've tried to research the Burnton protocol, but all records of it seem to have been erased.
We should go to the police.
And tell them what? That we're being possessed by ghosts from an abandoned hospital?
Last night, I woke up in my bathroom, standing in front of the mirror. I wasn't alone in my reflection. He was there too, the doctor in the stained coat, standing behind me, his hands on my shoulders, his mouth next to my ear, whispering.
The protocol isn't finished, it's just beginning.
I know now what they wanted, what they still want. The hospital wasn't the source of the evil, it was the cage, and we set them free. So, I'm recording this as a warning. Stay away from Burnton. Stay away from abandoned places that call to you in dreams. And if you ever hear whispering that knows your name, run. Run, and don't look back. Because I looked back, and now he's always with me, waiting for his turn to wear my skin.